When Gordon Brown launched a campaign in 1997 to scrap the tax exemption on pension fund dividend income, it was undoubtedly the worst economic mistake any Chancellor of the Exchequer had ever made. At the time, pension funds and institutional investors owned nearly half of the shares listed on the British stock market. Now that share has shrunk to just 4%. For most people, it seemed harmless, raising only about £5 billion back then. But it didn't just reduce retirees' income. More importantly, it eliminated the compounding returns from reinvesting dividends. The cumulative cost to pension funds over the following 20 years was estimated at around £250 billion. And now, in 2025, we have a Chancellor determined to do even more damage to pensions than Brown did, and with Labour's massive majority, she has every opportunity to do so. Reeves' first move in her four-part dance was to subject private pensions to inheritance tax. This means that, in some estates, the total tax deducted from a pension could reach 72% for basic-rate taxpayers, 84% for higher-rate taxpayers, and 87% for additional-rate taxpayers. The next step, believed to be under consideration by Reeves, is to scrap any tax incentives that encourage salary sacrifice into pensions. A report by HMRC has paved the way for this move, which could add £500 a year to the tax bills of middle-income earners and reduce the size of their pension pots. But even that's not enough to satisfy Reeves' appetite for meddling. Next comes the assertion of state control over where pensions can be invested, based on the belief, shared by Reeves and her allies, that the government can pick the winners. Crucially, the aim isn't to reward pensions with decent returns, but to use pension funds to provide investment in Labour's preferred sectors without having to raise taxes or borrow at market interest rates. Essentially, it's a way to support risky government interventions in the economy. We are already seeing pension funds trying to curry favor with the government, with Pensions Minister Torsten Bell congratulating a firm for allocating 15% of its investments to government priorities, including 5% for renewable energy projects. This isn't a Viagra shot to stimulate the economy, it's Valium to put it to sleep. Finally, Reeves is considering letting companies with defined benefit schemes spend any surpluses. Why? So she can slap a 25% tax on any withdrawals, of course. The overall effect of these changes, even if not implemented all at once, will be to impoverish all retirees by reducing returns. It will discourage people from saving for retirement through pensions and push them to seek out other investment options. All of this will erode British pension funds and the intricate ecosystem of expertise, jobs, and support structures that underpin the pension sector, as if a cancer were eating it away. Far from making British equities more attractive, this will accelerate their decline, since they will no longer need to compete in a fair market. Performance will become less important than geographical location or political favoritism. It's a recipe for disaster that will spread through our private sector like a monstrous tapeworm. It doesn't have to be this way, though. The alternative, which should have been embraced when the Conservatives, backed by the Liberal Democrats, won in 2010, is still available to the next government. Whoever takes on this task must work to encourage, not mandate, greater pension saving by providing a more stable and secure retirement system for future retirees. Yes, it would be wonderful if a larger portion of pension fund investments stayed in the UK, but that should happen because our private sector has become a global leader delivering strong returns, not because a minister is pulling the wrong lever behind a velvet curtain like the Wizard of Oz. The new Chancellor must start by reversing Reeves' inheritance tax rate on pensions, making retirement saving attractive once again. By encouraging the private sector to secure our future, the state benefits from a more dynamic economy through higher tax revenues and lower future social welfare costs. After that, and this is absolutely critical, the UK should restore the dividend tax credits for pension funds that Gordon Brown abolished. Costing just a few £100 million, this step would prompt pension funds to significantly increase their allocations to British equities. It's relatively cheap because Brown's policy already did so much damage to pension fund investments in the UK. It wouldn't cost the $5 billion it raised back in 1997. Then, the government should scrap the stamp duty on shares.
This 0.5% tax on every capital market transaction in the UK depresses share values and investment in British equities. It's a long overdue reform held back only by entrenched class warfare biases. Finally, the country must confront the urgent need to move away from the state's unfunded Ponzi pension scheme, where today's taxes pay today's pensions in the hope that future taxes will cover future pensions, a model that depends on constant mass immigration to offset demographic challenges. We need a funded pension system that invests in real assets so that future generations can rely on robust pension funds. British workers get an extremely low implicit return on what they pay into national insurance. Evidence shows they'd be 3 times better off if they put the same amount into a private pension fund instead. The money paid into the UK's pay-as-you-go state system goes straight out as current benefits. Over the years, those payments can only grow as fast as the national insurance contributions funding them, and data from the Office for National Statistics in 2024 shows that the average weekly earnings of full-time UK employees fell 2% in real terms compared to 2010. By contrast, the real return on invested funds exceeds 5%. In fact, between 1900 and 2021, UK equities delivered an average real annual return of about 5.4%, while global equities achieved around 5.3% over the same period. This gap between state and private systems, compounded over 40 years of work, means that the average worker's national insurance contributions would need to be 6 times higher than what it would cost to buy the same pension benefits from the private sector. Transitioning away from this system requires a gradual shift, and one way to fund it is to address the overly generous and expensive public sector pension schemes. But that's another story. Reeves is on a mission. She's desperate to fill the massive holes she's created in the public finances. By plundering our pensions and destroying the sector with taxes, she will only achieve rapidly diminishing returns while simultaneously gutting the wealth-creating private sector.